All right, South region. Clemson and Iowa. Really evenly matched game. You know, it wasn't long ago when Brad Brunell took Clemson to the Elite Eight as a 6 seed. And Iowa's lost 4 of their last 5. Now, I will say, I was prepared to pick Clemson in this game. But then their starting center, Connor Welling, tore his ACL in the ACC tournament. Second leading scorer. That's a really bad loss. And you really dissect these losses that Iowa's taken. All of them have been either by one possession or in overtime. I think that's more fluky. There's more context than just looking at their record recently. So this will be a close game. I think Iowa takes the edge because of that injury. I will say the winner of this will lose to Florida. Clemson would give Florida more of a game than Iowa would. Because Iowa is 358th in the sport in rebounding, and I don't know if you've seen Florida play. Florida's the best rebounding team in the sport, and it's by a decent amount. They rebound 44% of misses on the offensive end, which is pretty nuts. So I feel like Florida's just going to overwhelm Iowa on the inside. And with Clemson, they are more athletic than Iowa, I would say. They're a little bit more versatile than Iowa is on the defensive end. So they'll give Florida more of a game, but ultimately just not enough firepower and star power on that team for me to take them. So I'll take Florida. Kind of not really having to blink and go to the Sweet 16. Vanderbilt and McNeese is the 5-12 here. And a lot of people are picking Vanderbilt to go really, really far in the tournament. Like I've seen Elite 8 for them. I think people are just overlooking how trappy this game is. Remember, the teams that pull off upsets are defensive-minded teams that get hot from 3, as we've talked about, not offensive teams. McNeese has won 10 straight games. They are giving up one of the lowest points per possessions in the entire sport. And Vanderbilt is allowing 75 points per game, 221st in the sport. And stylistically, this is really interesting because one of these things has to give. Vanderbilt is averaging just 9 turnovers per game. That's like top 25 lowest in D1, one of the lowest rates in the whole tournament. Well, McNeese is forcing 17 turnovers per game. That's the second most in Division I. So one of those things has to give. And Vandy's had a lot of trouble this year not fouling. They're sending people to the line 24 times a game. That's the 329th least. McNeese is really good at getting to the foul line. Just saying. So McNeese plus 11.5 and plus 580 is a really, really good bet because I think they make this game close. That being said, Vandy's got a lot more firepower than your average 5 seed. You look at Tyler Tanner and Duke Miles and the way they've been playing recently and how good they are at finishing at the rim as well with Washington and McLaughlin. And Tyler Nickel, I didn't even bring up him. They just have a lot of firepower. Way more than any 5 seed we've seen in a while, I believe. So I'm going to pick Vandy outright to win, but I'm going to take McNeese because I see a lot of value there. And I think the winner of Vandy and McNeese will go to the Sweet 16. I know it's a pretty bold prediction, but I was prepared to fade both Nebraska and Troy because I thought Nebraska was the worst 4 and Troy was the worst 13. Then they got matched up against each other. It's like, oh, well, I guess you got to pick one. Nebraska, this last month, 5-4. Lost to UCLA by 20. Lost to Purdue by 16. Lost to Iowa. In that span, they have 0 wins against teams that are in relevant NCAA tournament conversation. Troy is 171st in computer metrics. They've gotten lucky in some close games this year. I'll take Nebraska in my bracket. I'll use dummy logic here just because Nebraska is so ice cold because they don't have barely any tournament experience on their team. Troy plus 750 is worth just a little bit of a sprinkle. But I'll take Nebraska. And I'll take Vanderbilt to go to the Sweet 16 in the tournament in my bracket. These are sort of similar teams, actually. Just one of them is way hotter. One of them has just more firepower and more NBA talent. But this was the kicker for me. Rim protection and the ability to finish at the rim is huge. So important. I'm going to sound like a broken record when I'm talking about this stat because it frees up three-point shooters. Vanderbilt is one of the best finishing teams in the country. They shoot 65% at the rim. Top 20 in Division I. Nebraska is allowing teams to shoot 66% within 5 feet of the rim. 359th. With Tanner and Nickel and all those guys, no one from Nebraska is there to stop them at the rim. So I like Vanderbilt to go to the Sweet 16. Now, the thing is the sports books happen to agree with me. They have Vanderbilt at minus value to go to the Sweet 16. I'm not going to bet that because me and the sports books are in kind of lockstep with each other. McNeese State at 2,200 is a great bet to go to the Sweet 16. I think Troy plus 4,500. No, I wouldn't do that actually. So I'll take Vandy to go to the Sweet 16. I'll take McNeese and put a little bit of money on them. That leaves us to Florida and Vanderbilt in the Sweet 16. I think Florida wins. These two teams have split recently. I think this game is close. Ultimately, Florida's just more balanced. They just have more ways of beating you than Vanderbilt does. And so I'll take Florida. You ask me, Harris, who is the biggest loser in all of Selection Sunday? I think it's North Carolina. Because VCU is playing red hot basketball right now. They're 16-1 in their last 17 games. And UNC, since they lost Caleb Wilson a month ago against Miami, you look at how these two teams are rated in computer metrics since that date, VCU is actually ahead of Carolina in Torvik in that span. So VCU might be the better team right now, and they're an 11 seed. And stylistically, VCU has a really good style of play to upset a team. 48% of their baskets are unassisted, yet they're one of the best scoring teams in the sport. 37% from three. VCU loves to play really fast, top 10th percentile in the sport in possessions in transition, while UNC is only forcing turnovers on 13% of possessions. So I'm not sure if they can really get in the way that VCU wants to control this game. Their three-point defense as well is not great. 242nd in the sport. Against a three-point team like that in VCU, I think that's a really bad combination. And if it gets to a close game, which I think it will, this definitely matters. UNC is one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the sport, 319th. VCU is one of the best free throw shooting teams in the sport. They're 75% from the line. And then you look at the 3 seed that UNC drew, Illinois. Illinois is a terrible matchup for UNC because UNC is one of the worser three-point shooting teams in the tournament, and Illinois guards the paint super well. So all around, and then Houston is probably the best too. So it's just a bad draw for them. I'm taking VCU to win outright against UNC. I'm taking them at plus 120. I think they are one of the 11s that pulls it off. And this leads us to a really interesting one. Illinois and Penn. I did a video about this game previously. I highly recommend you check it out. 4 matchups that have the biggest upset potential. I put this game on here. And I'm going to put the link in the description. Actually, you know what? Play the clip. This is going to come as a surprise because not a lot of people are picking this game. Illinois versus Penn. I listed this as a 5. So legit possibility that this happens. This fits the criteria I've listed for an upset perfectly. You have an offensive-minded team in Illinois. You have a team in Penn who is really defensive-minded. Illinois has lost 3 of their last 5. Penn has lost just 1 game since the start of February. And over this last month, remember I mentioned that analogy, striking lightning in a bottle. Okay. Illinois has been shooting 29% from 3. And they're consistently at the top of the sport in 3-point attempts. Penn's been shooting 42% in that span. So they're getting hot at the right time. They don't have scrubs either. Their best player is a former 5-star Duke recruit. So I'll pick Illinois in my bracket, but man, Penn plus 24.5 and plus 2,000 to win this game, yeah, some good money right there. Which leads us to VCU and Illinois in the round of 32. I like VCU to go to the Sweet 16. This is my double-digit seed that does it. It happens, pretty much every year. This is the one. Plus 1,000, love it. Penn to go to the Sweet 16 also at plus 20,000 is worth a little sprinkle. You don't have to put the King's ransom on it. You put $1, you win $200. So, it's not like a lot. But VCU's draw is really, really favorable here. They drew two ice-cold teams. Illinois got a losing record these last 3 weeks. UNC nearly does. Lost their best player, and they have been a shell of themselves since then. Illinois has been shooting ice-cold from three. They're 32% from three this last month. And that's a concern when you're nearly at the top of the sport in three-point attempts. And VCU's red hot, as I've mentioned. They're shooting it really well from three right now. So I'll take VCU in a really favorable matchup. Now, going towards the bottom, St. Mary's and Texas A&M. This is a complete contrast of styles. This is like extrovert meets introvert, dog meets cat. Okay? You got a team, it's 296 in tempo against a team that's 29th in tempo. So slow versus fast. You've got offense versus defense. A&M is 9th in the nation in points per game. They're giving up 80 a game, 321st. You got a St. Mary's team that plays super slow, gives up not many points at all. 65 points per game allowed, 6th least in Division I. This is like unstoppable force meets a movable object here. One of these things is going to crack, and whichever does, well, that team's going to lose. Clearly. That's going to tell the game. I think the sportsbook's got it right here. St. Mary's in a close game, minus 3.5. I'm right in lockstep with them. I have no bet here. I think the price is perfect. St. Mary's wins. The winner of this game will lose to Houston. I'm pretty confident in that. I'll also take Houston minus 23.5 against Idaho. If there's anything Kelvin Sampson does, it's blow out the teams that he should. He's done that. Houston in the Sweet 16. Going up against VCU. I will take Houston in that. Houston to reach the Elite Eight at plus 110 is one of the best values in the entire tournament. I think if it's VCU, Houston's just better in pretty much every area. I think if it's Illinois, Houston's just going to have way more shots than them because Illinois doesn't force turnovers and Houston crashes the glass so well. If it's North Carolina, same with VCU. Houston's just pretty much better in every facet. You could say they're the best 2 seed. I believe that. They're as good as any 1 seed. And you factor in the favorable draw that they got. Yeah. And the Elite Eight. Houston and Florida. Guard play matters a lot in March. And Boogie Fland and Zaven Lee have been shooting 25% from three combined this year. So my question with Florida is, are their guards consistent enough for the Gators to win 4 games in a row against elite competition in the tournament? I don't know if they are. I think Kingston Flemings is. I think Emmanuel Sharp is. And only 2 SEC teams are in the top 30 in defensive efficiency in computer metrics. That's it, just 2. The conference is by far the best offensive conference in the sport. But defensively, it's had its shortcomings. And so Houston will be by far the best defensive team Florida's played since Arizona or Duke in November, possibly. The deal breaker for me that ultimately made me choose Houston is Florida's half-court offense, because their guards have struggled so much to shoot from 3, is a concern. And Houston commits the least turnovers per game in the entire sport. Just 8 turnovers per game. So Houston might not give Florida the opportunity to do what they do best, which is play in transition, run and gun. So that right there tells me that the lack of consistent shooting from Florida's guards is going to be what derails them, and Houston's ability to take care of the basketball. So plus 250 to make the Final Four for Houston is also one of the best bets in the entire tournament. I am placing a good amount of money on that. And I have Houston in my bracket going to the Final Four.